Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Blame It on Marketing. It's been a hot minute since we filmed, so I feel a little bit out of practice. So excuse me if there's ums and ahs and me thinking. But we want to talk about something that actually came up a ton whilst we were filming last year. And it's usually in the marketing gossip portion of the episode where people are just like, LinkedIn's driving me crazy, or shit posts on LinkedIn or LinkedIn AI comments, and just the general world of LinkedIn. We've got Andy, who I will let introduce himself in a hot second. But yeah, we're excited to talk about social. I feel like we come back to it here and there because it's not going away anywhere, is it?
Not at the moment, until it turns into a whole world of AI slop, which it's kind of headed that way. But
We're
I
going.
remain optimistic, so we shall see. But for 2025, I think it ain't going anywhere.
So tell us a bit about yourself, Andy.
Quick one, and thank you so much for inviting me to this, because it was an absolute joy having you on my podcast late last year. So I'm thrilled to be on your one. So thank you for the invite, firstly. And secondly, keeping it very short, I've probably spent probably don't want to say that because I'm older than I actually think I am. So like 15 years in social media, and created or co-created a content marketing business called Content Cal, which we grew to being used by about 30,000 businesses in 140 countries, and sold that to Adobe at the end of 2021. So I now work at Adobe, which is a very different life these days, but working on some really fun stuff. I've gone on a journey from marketer to co-founder to product dude. So that's me now. But my love is still marketing. So that's where I spend most of my time thinking about.
Excellent. And do you still have the love for social, even though you've kind of been in it for so long and been messing with it in some way or another?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I feel more strongly about it, even though it gives me a lot of pain a lot of times, and I try and avoid it in my personal life, ironically. But for for businesses, and particularly like B2Bs, I still think it's underutilized. I still think there's so much opportunity still to be captured. And it's still my kind of life's work to try and help particularly B2Bs truly understand the potential of social. And that's why I spend most of my time thinking about, because we're still building products to help people do social media better. So that's it.
We're with you, Andy, on the trying to avoid it in your personal life, right? I actually this morning had like some dread because I thought for one of my clients I was going to have to log into Facebook, and I had that
I hear that.
My face went even paler than it normally is. I was like, oh no, God, don't make me do that. So before we get into dishing all the dirt on social media and how it connects with B2B in particular, tell us about your greatest marketing fuck up.
Well, there's a catalogue to pick from. Actually, though, to be honest, they're probably not fuck ups really. They're just, I have always had a mindset of like, screw it, let's do it. And I have been guilty of running at things before I've really thought about it. The typical usual shit of misspelling people, misspelling names, particularly on social content, because I don't understand how I can spend so long typing and still be shit at it. Like, I don't understand how I can't write a social post without fucking something up on it. It's ridiculous. I don't understand how I can't get better at that. I don't know. So that is always very embarrassing, especially when you're announcing like winners of social media awards and you spell someone's name wrong. It's not good. So I think there's probably a lot of marketers or social media folk that will probably be nodding along right now. And I think just generally, it's probably more of a, like I said, mindset rather than fuck up. It's just, I have been guilty of being like, oh yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Let's just do it. Of which, kind of works well sometimes, but certainly as your career grows and you get into larger organizations, sometimes can land you in a bit of hot water when you've run at something a little bit too quickly. So, and I think probably the only other thing that comes to mind as well is that I've also been guilty, because I love community-oriented marketing things, not really thinking through what it takes to build and grow a community and how hard it is, to the kind of resources that you're going to need around it. Been guilty of starting something with great intention and it dying a death. Just look to my graveyard of 3 dead podcasts before I've now created a 4th one. So Yeah.
You keep at it though. You keep trying.
You keep going. You keep going. We'll slap your wrist for that one as community. We're also community loving marketers, so we'll give you a little. That's naughty. The running at things though, maybe it's just we need to take a jog, not a run. You know?
Yeah.
I feel like like it though.
That's smart. It's a mindset I don't necessarily want to use, but just have a little bit of a thought of like, what does the next step look like, rather than, oh, that looks good. It was like, squirrel, go, Yeah.
You've got a bit of magpie syndrome. You're like, it's sparkly, let's go get it. Yeah.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
I actually posted a LinkedIn post about the fact that I'm really shit at spelling, and I kid you not, and this wasn't on purpose, there were two spelling mistakes in that post that people kept commenting about, and they're like, did you do this on purpose? I was like, this is literally the point. Like, this is the point. I was trying to say how I'm bad at spelling, and I managed to make two spelling mistakes in the post about saying how I'm bad at spelling.
Do you know who I hate more than the people who spell things incorrectly? Because I don't have a problem with it. Spelling incorrectly, incorrect context, incorrect grammar, like this is how language evolves, right? That's all good. We don't mind that. I don't like the people who pick you up on it. I'm sorry. Get a life. Just get a life.
It was funny in that post though, because it was about the thing. So they were like,
I get
wait,
it.
Are you putting these in on purpose? And I was like, nope, I'm proving my own point here.
I get it, but I just don't love it. My mum does this thing where like 2 weeks after I post, she goes through my posts. I'm like, that was 2 weeks ago, Leslie. Stop it.
If she's listening to this,
she doesn't
don't
listen.
point
It's
Emma's
fine.
mistakes out. It's fine.
My word, I would hate for my family to look through the stuff that I've done. There would be all manner of piss taking if they actually saw the stuff that I did. So thank God none of my family are on LinkedIn.
So what is going on with LinkedIn? Why does it feel like everyone's complaining about how shit LinkedIn is getting?
Good question. It's going to be a very interesting year for this year, because there is probably going to get worse before it gets better. And I think this is purely on the basis of they are very much doing a Instagram of 2020, or 21, where it's like, you will like video, you will want to look at video. And I think that's naturally going to bring with it quite a lot of shit. Now, there are upsides to it. I still remain like really buoyant and optimistic about the platform in general, because video views are great. So if you create video like you do, like I do, view counts look pretty good right now. It's there's more opportunity for exposure, and the great thing about it is that so few people create video on LinkedIn compared to who consume it. So there's like an arbitrage opportunity there. So that's the good thing. The bad thing is that just because it's video doesn't mean that it's good, right? So, and what LinkedIn hasn't quite figured out yet is what does good content actually look like? Just look to the kind of graveyard of stories, LinkedIn stories, because they don't quite know what like a video first experience looks like. And, they keep on flip-flopping between, they get the points where it's like, more about educational orientated content, and that being front and center, and the stuff that does really well. So they have I feel like they chop and change more than other platforms, it feels like. But then again, I spend more time on LinkedIn, so that might be unfair. Then there's certain topics that become the topic du jour, which is like AI, and basically the feed is just filled with anyone like, here's 10 ChatGPT prompts. Like, fucking hell, like, relax, it's just everywhere. So that also kind of impacts things as well. And video, again, is going to make that harder to try and get good quality content. That being said, there are still creators, and you were talking about just before we went on air, talking about like, where do people complain? Why is it always, it's very kind of nicey on LinkedIn versus like people that are willing to speak their minds and really, say how it is. And there are some creators that take this opportunity or take that angle, and LinkedIn is performing really well for them. Now, because my memory is so bad, as to my earlier point, I'm getting older, I'm going to remember who these two people are that I've got in mind, and I'm going to look them up in a second and say who they are. Yeah, that's my take on LinkedIn right now. I think we're going to go through a bit of a journey over 25. Yeah. What about you both? What do you reckon?
So one interesting thing that I've noticed since, God, when did it kick off? I feel like it was Q4 of last year, is that we're getting a lot of unfollows on our Blame It on Marketing page, but I don't think it's actually people unfollowing, because that's one, we don't post anything that bad for someone to be like, don't want to hear about you. And two, like it feels like it's like significant. So I think LinkedIn's doing like cleansing of pages, which is fine. I don't mind too much, but I wish they were clearer about kind of how that happens. And we know all the platforms do this, literally all of them, like YouTube, Instagram, whatever. I get that, but I don't love it. And the other thing is that the more I look, the more I sniff pod and fake engagement things going on. I was spoken to a few people in private about this, but it's like, it's a little bit disheartening given that, you know, how much original content we all create, to then see someone post a selfie and it's just a barrage of like, oh, like, you know, you can tell when it's just a shit comment, nothing to do with anything. And you're just like, you know, I'm spending hours editing and filming and like doing all of that stuff. So I think it can be a little bit disheartening to see in it. And it feels like there's kind of a few big, you know, there's like a few big accounts in every industry and they feel like they're really holding that space, and then it doesn't feel like that many new accounts are getting really big anymore. Like I'm talking in the hundreds, 1,000+ followers numbers. It like I don't see that many new accounts doing that. They'll be in the 10, 20, 50, you know, like in those marks. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but it feels like LinkedIn's not necessarily punishing people for shit engagement, you know, as much as they are punishing for no engagement. But that's my rant.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think your approach in building like a LinkedIn company page is a tough gig for sure. Like building company pages is tough. Of course, we know like in the marketing sphere, there are LinkedIn company pages that have bucked the trend. So Pretty Little Marketer being one of those, or Marketing Millennials, that kind of stuff, as you know, right? And a lot of that content in particular is pretty snackable, particularly Marketing Millennials. It's, you know, it's something it's crowd pleasing content. You know, that's no shade thrown at it. It's just, it's good. You know, what they've done is solid. They know exactly what people want to see, because, you know, if we think about like the typical LinkedIn audience member, they're not spending as much time on the platform as they are compared to the typical TikTok user or Insta user, like orders of magnitude less. So really, content needs to be more snackable on LinkedIn than anywhere else, which is going to be an interesting gap to bridge for video content, which naturally isn't as snackable, right? Even if you're doing like 30, 60, 90 seconds tops videos, of which, you know, wouldn't go anywhere over 90 seconds. You know, it's, you know, when are people consuming that? When are people watching that? Because naturally this is, you know, LinkedIn's one of those few things that you can open at work. You know, you wouldn't feel bad if your boss walks behind you because you're on LinkedIn. Depends on your role, but like, you know, if you were a marketer or a salesperson, you can be on LinkedIn all day and, you know, no problem. But of course, like consuming longer form content, be it video, be it like a longer carousel, naturally that takes a significant investment of time. And typically, I don't have data here, and I wonder that a lot of LinkedIn's kind of engagement, I can see it in best performing post data, is that typically it's all in that kind of morning time core work hours where you'll see like spikes of engagement on Instagram, particularly on TikTok in evening hours, because people that have more of a life aren't spending their evenings on LinkedIn, you know? Exactly. So I think that's definitely a challenge, and clearly a way how that some of the like more kind of meme orientated of accounts have performed really well. That being said, I have seen, and I've now got the names that have come to my mind. So there's two creators on LinkedIn that have decided to go a bit of a different path. Tom Boston is one of those. So and obviously, as you all know, anyway, as marketers, Dan Kelsall, who, you know, that is, you know, purely in the not for everyone's type of content, but it's always entertaining, right? And very contra to, and I'll put myself in this category, very polite LinkedIn content, right? So, and I think that probably that kind of like polite middle of the roadness that LinkedIn content often gets taken the mickey out of for, right? Because the reality is it's like, as a digital footprint, right? And especially if, you know, I'm talking as a ex-co-founder, you know, someone that's now sold to a public company, you got to be kind of careful. I couldn't just be ranting off on on LinkedIn and shitpost. I want to be able to read the stuff, when I'm older, or look back at this and go, actually, you know what, that was quite good. I stand by that viewpoint. Quite good in my mind, but like I still stand by it, and I would put what I've written in a book. And I think that mindset comes with this quite a heavyweight mindset to look at it, which does mean my content is never going to go absolutely viral, because it's I think it's helpful, but it's possibly not the most exciting thing in the world. But also, it's a mindset that has prevented a lot of people from becoming active on LinkedIn. If yes, we've seen a great growth of CEOs now. 34% more CEOs are on LinkedIn than they were before, which is great.
I think when we were talking earlier, to start with about, what's the thing that's driving people crazy about LinkedIn? I think that's the thing that keeps coming up in my mind, is there's this worry about what it means to be actively posting still if you are working in-house. Now, it's a little bit different for us because we're independent, like Ruta and I are independent. So if we shit post, that's on us. And, I think we felt as a result, maybe sometimes there are people who would be turned off from working with Ruta and I, because we're not all the way. We're not the Clark Barron, which we love Clark, by the way. We're like a Clark Barron stan account, basically, as Blame It on Marketing. But we don't go that deep, but we do, we take the mick. We poke fun at things. We create silly, content taking the piss out of CEOs who don't understand marketing, all that kind of stuff. And, that does naturally, that is going to impact your career. And I am not sure how conscious people are sometimes about what they're posting. And I think it's interesting you mentioned Tom, because Tom came on the podcast a while back.
Did he?
One of the things, yeah, he did. And one of the things he talked about was, posting with kindness and thinking is this going to offend or upset someone? So that's a personal thing that he holds himself accountable for. So even though super comedic, really funny, he never posts anything that is, I don't think, remotely offensive. He kind of knows who his audience are, and he knows how far he can push the boundaries. And I think that, for me, that's really important. But I wonder how far, like you say, Andy, that goes for people, and what impact posting on these more public platforms where you can't have the pseudonym or you can't privatize your profile, what impact that is going to have on the actual job market, especially in places like sales, where there's we expect you to post kind of mentality, but then it's what are you actually posting?
Yeah.
Especially imagine if you're selling to more
tough.
Corporate professional. I don't like that word anymore because it doesn't mean anything, but if you're going for that as a salesperson and you've had a wild account, it's gonna be seen.
Yeah. I think it's the thing that's held so many people back from making LinkedIn work for them. And it's not impossible to reconcile. It's, Tom's a great example of it, right? You could look back on that and go, actually, that's just genuinely good. It's good stuff, right? And it's the reason I bring him up is that it just shows that you can take a different track on LinkedIn, whether you're the end of the spectrum where Tommy's gone full and kind of entertainment comedic, or Dan's still comedy, but the darker side, the kind of more the ruder side of the comedy, right? So, and directly poking fun at people and tearing down companies publicly as well. So that comes with it. You got to be pretty darn bold for that. But then there's everything in life is a spectrum, and what's your level of comfort on that spectrum? And mine, I can only speak for myself. Mine's always been okay, can I provide advice that I think is genuinely helpful, because I get a kick out of anyone that responds to go, actually, thank you for this. This was genuinely useful. And something that I'd look back on and go, I still stand by that. Yes, my business has grown dramatically as a result of LinkedIn, but does that mean that everyone needs to have a personal brand? Not necessarily. And no one really wants to watch video content of someone that doesn't really want to be on video, or someone that's not very good at writing, right? I don't really get the whole kind of that's why the employee advocacy thing, we're still talking about this 20 years after the fact. Just want to, if people don't want to do it, just don't force them, because it's just going to be shit.
I literally posted this the other day because I was so fed up of seeing these my New Year's resolution in 2035 is just to start posting on LinkedIn, and I was that is shit advice. That is just shit, because like you say, Andy, not everybody should not everybody has the skill set. I think that's the other thing, right? Not everybody is a marketer. So I'm not saying every marketer even has the skill set to do this stuff very well. I'm not even saying that I have the skill set to do this very well, but I feel like I'm just going to post and you've got no choice. Whereas I'm here, there is nothing you can do about it. Whereas, yeah, there is a group of people where it's like, no, you do not have to. You do not have to subscribe to cheating the algorithm. So you don't have to keep posting selfies that have nothing to do with your post. You do not have to create video content if you do not want to. That's fine. It doesn't mean that the content you are creating is less valuable. Yes, okay, you may not get the reach or the likes, but if you have a core audience that, like you say, finds your content useful, which I think is the most important thing, is that there is a purpose and it's useful. I think that's valuable if that's, but then again, it's the motivation for posting as well. Because some people, it's like, I just want to be an influencer. So in which case, of course, you're going to do all the things that cheat the algorithm. I'm very skeptical. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I agree. Sorry,
one of the great points you made is like, we've given ourselves a tough gig by trying to grow like a company page, but it's blame it on marketing, which I totally agree with. But one of the things we wanted to talk to you about is kind of how we use LinkedIn is changing, especially in B2B. So we kind of went from company pages to then personal pages. But I don't know if you have any opinion on this, and if you don't, that's completely fine. Have you seen the premium features that LinkedIn is now building for company pages?
I have. I've not used them yet, though.
I wonder if they're going to be pushing back in to that and trying to push the content on company pages of people that are paying for premium. So I don't know if we're going to shift back down that way, but I'll let you answer.
Yeah, I don't have the answer yet. Have you got the ability to subscribe to premium for your company page? Yeah, have you seen?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. How much is it? Is it the same as
like 70 quid a month, I think, something like that. Below 100, above 70, I think.
Got it.
Something in there, yeah. It has some neat features which everyone wants to automate, like, if somebody engages with your content, like automatically asking them to follow you and those kind of things. So it's all the stuff we've been trying to automate that LinkedIn doesn't want us to automate because they don't want to give us API access. So they're building it out as premium, but...
I like that. I like that a lot. And... yeah, to be honest, it's one of those tricks, and this kind of picks up on something that might be some tactical advice here, is that, honestly, I speak about LinkedIn all the time. I still miss so many tricks. I do LinkedIn Lives every month with another individual. And what I'd never done, and never even thought to do, was for everyone that registers for this LinkedIn Live, because not everyone joins, right? But everyone, the people that register, let's just say 300 people register for it. What I'd never done is go through and connect with these folk. Because I do them in collaboration with someone else, it also means that there's other people's audience that are getting invited too. And I've just started doing this because I've got one upcoming at the end of the month. I just looked through the list of people that have accepted the event and just went through. I didn't write a note because they already had some intent of joining this. Just went through, connect. And I was like, oh, great. I've got 100 new followers with 5 minutes work. And each of those followers, because I have a LinkedIn newsletter, get pinged to say, why don't you subscribe to Social 3.0? And I was like, I really should do more here.
I'm going to give you the greatest life hack right now. Just hold on to your socks.
I'm ready for it.
So what we do, so we want as many people as we can to join blameitonmarketing.com, right? So whenever somebody follows us on LinkedIn, we have them basically pasted out into a spreadsheet by a lovely individual who goes through the data once every couple of weeks. So they just go through our followers, paste their LinkedIn, and then Emma and I have Dripify set up to where we then paste all of those profiles into Dripify, auto-connect, say hello, and then ask them to join the blameitonmarketing.com community. And that has basically put through hundreds of people into the Blame It on Marketing community, grows our followership, ensures that people feel like they've been connected to and said hello by the thing they're following, and also it means that they see all of our content. It's incredible. It's the best thing we've ever done.
Love it. So let me play that back. So someone follows your company page. That's the start point. So someone finds you, organically finds your company page. And whoever's followed you goes into a spreadsheet. So I don't know Dripify.
Dripify is like a LinkedIn automation tool. So you can connect with people and message them. So we just have a little campaign where you can paste in everybody's LinkedIn URLs, and then they connect, and then we say hello to them, basically.
Nice. Okay.
Just to be clear to our followers, if you do connect with us and you reply back, Ruta and I, it is us. It's not a bot.
Yeah, it's replying.
Us.
It's not. Yeah.
Yeah. We're not automating everything. Okay.
Yeah. I love that. So when you connect with them, and I'll go into some detail here, but like, do you connect with them with your personal profiles, or you? Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So each of you individually. Okay. Cool. And say, hey, why don't you join BlameItOnMarketing.com?
Yeah. And those campaigns have like a 70% connection rate. So
which makes perfect sense, right?
Yeah. Oh, and bonus points. Dripify also pulls out the person's LinkedIn email address, and then we push that up into HubSpot. So we then have a newsletter emailing list in HubSpot of people's whatever email they use for their LinkedIn sign-ins, which is totally fine with us. We don't mind that. It's not company emails.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I think so. This is super useful advice and practical suggestions, because I often talk about this. It's like when we think about social content, to your point, Emma, about like, oh, new 25 resolution is just to post more. And I think it's such a wrong way to look at it in all manner of ways, because, I'd say this to businesses all the time. It's like we spend our lives fixating on the things that we put in our feed and don't think about the efforts that we put in around everything else. Because like social media is not a tactic, it's an overarching strategy. I think what you've identified there is like, you've got one core asset, right? The podcast, and you kind of building the flywheel around it. And the same with like, that's why LinkedIn newsletters are such a wonderful thing right now, because they're so easy to grow. Like I've been chipping away at my Substack newsletter for a couple of years now. More like the LinkedIn one, just like so much quicker to grow. Yeah, exactly. And like, I also use some LinkedIn automation tools as well. So I will confess, here I am in the confession box. And because ultimately the joy of LinkedIn compared to other platforms is that you can be so much more direct with who you want to, the audience that you want to acquire. Whereas like if you started an Instagram account tomorrow, it literally is hit and hope. Yeah, you could follow some people and hope that they'll follow you back, but you're fully aware that even if they follow you, they're unlikely to see your content, as is the algorithm, etc. But with LinkedIn, you can be so intentional about it. And when we think, oh yeah, day one, I'm just going to start posting. No, actually, how about you try and figure out who you want to serve and go connect with them? You could have 1,000 really targeted followers in a month if you really wanted to, or a couple of months if you're paying for premium, yada yada. But it's a very small investment, 30 quid a month, to then grow like a really high quality following and be very intentional about it without having to post and hope. And I think, I don't know whether it's just me, but it feels to me that that's just like a missed thing. I think we just lose our minds of just going, well, it's just about content. Yes, content is important, but both like our intentional approach of how we build our audience, and then to your point about like the structure we put around how we grow that audience, including like the core asset we want to share and, all the things that you just mentioned, feels like that's just a much more sensible and more strategic way to grow on LinkedIn.
Well, it's the engagement bit, right? It's like, I mean, we've obviously been talking about B2B company pages as well as like people's personal followership. And obviously, it's like, if you have a B2B company page, I feel like this is where that's why the B2B company page, I think, falls flat and dies a death, is that it's like, you just post out, you just scream out into the void. You're not engaging with any of the kind of groups that already exist on LinkedIn that are interested in your topics, or influencers or any of those other people. You're not joining into the conversation. And then when you see, this is I now do this thing where Ruta and I comment back to people with the little robot emoji if we either think it's an AI post or it's a shit like, thanks, that was very insightful, robot.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is very rude, but whatever. But the B2B company pages, when you've got some poor social media person or marketer that does it maybe even like an hour a week or something, whatever they're allowed to do on social, who then comments like, thanks for this, on like, I'm like, that's what I feel like is lacking. It's like the content bit is half of it, maybe. The other half is the engagement piece. And yeah, I'm like, why? I get that we all kind of feel like we have to have the B2B company page. But if you're not going to do the engagement piece, why bother? Is that
and
that
we
the
comment
wrong
as
attitude?
Blame It on Marketing
Yes.
on other
Oh my
posts
God.
as well, and it's hilarious. Like,
I
it
commented
gets
on
a
Andy's
conversation
earlier.
going. Yeah, it gets a conversation going. Like, they're curious because obviously our name is like funny. That's not going to be true for every single company page, but like you can extend your name and add in like a little tagline or something. You know, there's ways to make it more engaging. But yeah, it's usually a digital marketing manager who's got an hour a week to spend on company page posts, and we absolutely feel for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tough. And yeah, I think, oh my word, AI comment bots, just please die. Please. Oh my God. It's just the worst.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Just please stop summarizing my post back to me. Like, we're good. I wrote the post, you know that, right? Like, yeah.
We will get there, and I do see a world in the not too distant where you will be able to comment back something that you deeply believe in and sounds like you in a genuinely good response. So I think we're not too distant. It's not in the too distant future us being able to do that, but where it is right now, just because the tech exists doesn't mean we should use it. And it's the same as like AI post generators. It's like, there's a time and place for it, but like it still needs the human touch right now. Just because we can do things fast doesn't mean that we should. And
the thing though is, especially when it comes to like posts, if you have a long chat going with the history of everything, and like you have a paid for probably ChatGPT subscription, it can write you really good posts that will take a couple of minutes of edits to get them out the door. Like, we do it all the time. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. So if you're not getting the right words out when you prompt, just keep working on it. Give it example. You know, like, there's nothing wrong with it. I feel like there's loads of AI posts out there that we have no idea are AI because they're just good enough. So like you said, yeah, we'll probably get to a point where we can comment in our own voice and have something pre-scheduled. My comments are absolutely deranged, so maybe not mine.
It takes the social out of social, right? I might as well just not turn up to meetings and just send my AI, and it can just do my note taking and respond as me, and I'll just sit around drinking coffee. It's fine. And it's like, so for me, one of the greatest things that has happened as a result of Blame It on Marketing and the social stuff that we do, and obviously we have automated a portion of it, but the good bit about automating it is it means then we can actually have real conversations with people who respond back to us. And we can build relationships. Like, Ruta and I have got so many internet friends now as a result. And it's lovely. We've kind of built a little network around Blame It on Marketing. We've got lots of people that we could go to for advice on things because we've built friendships and relationships and connections. And I would like to see more, not just influencer types, but I would like to see more B2B companies think about their social media like that as a place to, how can you really support your ICP and your community who do the job that your product serves, so that it's not this like, download our ebook, do this, do that. Like, you should be thinking about it in like, how do you generate value for people? And I think a lot of that on social is about the relationships, right? I don't want to get too sentimental, but
yeah, well, amen to all of that, to be honest. And I'll come back to that in a second. But when I was referring to like the AI commenting stuff, and I'm with you on it, giving you the ick. And this also picks up on the point that you said about using ChatGPT and its kind of historical context that it has on you. And I don't think we've got the right tool set yet. And I still will want a creator like you, anyone else, marketer, to have the curatorial control over everything, right? So you're the traffic light, you're the traffic warden. You're figuring out like, that shit, that ain't going. Like this one's good. So, and also you want to know who you're commenting to. You just don't want a bot just responding to people.
Yeah.
But like, if, for example, Emma, you put out a post that was really insightful. Sometimes it takes, when you're doing work, you look through LinkedIn and you're like, actually, that's interesting. I have some thoughts on that. And it's sometimes like, it can take me half an hour to write a comment sometimes, maybe because I'm slow and stupid, but like, because you want to put something down that's decent. Having prepare something that, here's a couple of responses based on like your historical responses and the type of things that you talk about, how you could respond to Emma's post, which one's useful to you, then that isn't, again, like to your point, Ruta, about like you're using ChatGPT to get you started. No shame on that at all. Like it's absolutely the right way to use AI to like unlock creativity, to suddenly like, actually, perfect. That is what I was thinking of. Now I'm going to tweak this, and this because for obvious reasons, because it sounds like me, or more relevant, more timely, yada, yada. Essentially, humans having curatorial control and letting the kind of, the initial spark of the idea come from AI. I'm a huge proponent of across all manner of different things. It's just that we're not quite there yet. And it's only unless you're really diligent, like you are with ChatGPT. Not everyone's there. And I don't know if you saw. Well, both there's two Meta announcements that scared the Jesus out of me.
The fact checking. The boomers won't know what to do. They will just believe everything.
It's already awful.
Terrified.
The fact checkers never fixed anything. It was already bad, but to just on top of everything, take that away. Excellent.
So you're taking that away in combination with a strategy to include to actively produce your own AI bots that both create content and respond to content. So so I'm like, all right. So you will feel heard. You're going to get loads of engagement, but engagement from who?
From what?
Yeah. And considering that most of our lives in social media has been like, the social platforms have been actively battling bots. Now like Meta are actively engineering bots to drive engagement. And really that's where it comes back to, is for the foreseeable future, I can't see when this is changing, like products and services will still be bought by humans, and humans maybe I'm being overly positive here, but yeah, Christ, I really hope so.
We still don't want to give AI a credit card.
No, God no. So, and of course, this is still, that piece is going to be hugely important. So how will people make decisions? And B2B decisions are increasingly governed by not the fear of missing out, but the fear of messing up, right? That is the most important like emotional lever that B2Bs have. So how do you prevent people from having that fear of messing up? How do you mitigate that? There's typically two things. This is really awesome research I read on this. We have two things that will define how we purchase things, which is one, a recognition heuristic. Have I heard of this before? Like, have I heard of blame it on marketing, for example? And then a social proof heuristic. Do I know people that have used this before? That's all we want. That's all we need to justify our decisions and our B2B decisions, even though historically we've always think that, they're rational. We choose based on features.
No, they're really not.
Exactly. It's all emotion. And it's all bias. So how then do we get that kind of how do we turn up in people's spheres of influence? How do we get recognized? How do we have social proof? And that increasingly becomes the role of like micro communities, the role of personal brands in this too. Personality-led growth, which creates a human connection and deeply understanding people's spheres of influence. Like if you're in time, as people start to get annoyed with Meta and X, they're going to flock, and they already are, to those platforms where they can connect with people, whether it's a Slack channel, whether it's a Discord server, where people feel like, actually, I just want to speak with people that get me. I don't need to be served all manner of shit in my feed. I just want to get some useful stuff. And that's why I still spend time on LinkedIn, because I still find it's one of the best places of useful, interesting stuff, like the things I read from you both. So that's where it's so important, if we understand the spheres where our customers are influenced, so that suddenly it feels like, and this happened as we were growing Content Cal, and people would tell me like, I just hear about you everywhere. I'm like, our marketing spend was not massive. It's just because we knew all of the little communities that our audience hung about in. So, there's a very loud echo chamber in those communities. So when people start saying, Content Cal's the best product, or Blame It on Marketing is the best podcast, etc. And then people start to go, I recognized it. And then there's my recognition and my social heuristic, social proof heuristic. And now suddenly you start to have a defensible go-to-market strategy, because, you led personality growth, you've focused on influence, and you've focused on those micro communities. And I feel more strongly, I said there's few things I would die on a hill for. This is still one of those things that I'm like super passionate about in B2B is how we like interact in those little spheres of influence, where LinkedIn is a key part of that, to drive purchase behavior in our favor.
I feel like you just validated my entire existence as a community/customer advocacy specialist, Andy. So I'm like, yeah, what he said. Yeah, done. Hey, we've got like a couple of minutes, Andy. So have you got any marketing gossip gold that you want to share with us? Either something that has irked you or something that you are loving right now?
All right. So the thing that irks me tremendously is LinkedIn engagement pods, because LinkedIn were meant to be cracking down on them. And I'm not sure if that's happening. And you can see it time and time again, because you look at posts from, they're typically like LinkedIn specialists, right? LinkedIn consultants, trainers, yada, yada. And you're like, how did 4,000 people like that? And it's incredibly basic stuff. And part of me goes, okay, we all live in a bubble. We all live in this bubble of like, we talk about marketing content all the time. We think about it, yada, yada. So it's not news to us, but is it news to anyone else? But like, I struggle to understand, how was that unique in any way? And then you look at the comments and you're like, oh, okay. Then you can start to see like, they're like, great post, love this, thumbs up, fire emoji. And you're like, all right, so something's happening here, clearly. So that's quite frustrating to see, as you mentioned it already, as a creator, when you're like, okay, don't hate the player, hate the game, but I wish that would go away.
Andy, thanks so much for joining us. You can check out Andy's podcast, Social 3.0. Obviously follow him on LinkedIn. He does post really useful stuff about social. Very good. We're going to coerce him into the Blame It on Marketing community. So if you have any questions that you can't ask on LinkedIn in front of your boss, you can ask Andy there in a safe space. But thank you so much for joining us. It's been a blast. Thanks, everyone.